array, and you get return a tuple with a single item, and you actually want the value inside, not the freaking tuple around it.
Right.
Do you have a best way? I mean, it's like having to write square bracket 0. I know you could write.
Right. So if you get, for example, I think I've had this when I was doing, I was using a SQL database without an ORM back before I knew that Django existed, probably. And we frequently have the case that we took the row instead of getting a single element. And so we would do x comma equals, and then whatever the tuple was, because you have a single element tuple, that actually assigns x right there.
Yeah, I don't think that's any less error prone than
the
bracket 0.
No, it's not any less error prone. I prefer this method only because I see that it's easy for me to miss that 0 at the end. It's not quite as easy for me to miss the comma if I'm looking for it. But if your other developers on your team aren't looking for those commas, you've got the same problem. But that 0, it shifts all over the place. That comma is always going to be right at the beginning before that equals sign.
Yeah. I
mean, if you really wanted to, you could probably do some weird syntactic thing like that to make sure you've always got a comma there. But I don't have any suggestion beyond that. Is anyone else?
Define the function car.
Helper function.
Yeah, helper function. Another question? Yeah.
I was thinking when you unpack the tuples, is there a way to strip the data at the same time? I find that use case frequently when I'm unpacking, but I want to strip each.
Right.
You can just put an underscore if you're not interested in an element. You can just, you're only interested in the first element of 3. You can say x, comma, underscore, comma, underscore.
Jim, did you mean stripping?
I meant strip white space.
Strip white space. So, for example, if you're stripping white space from each of the elements that you're getting out of it, I would probably use a list comprehension for that. Although if your tuple's a little bit big, that's probably going to be ugly. So you might want to make a function, do a for loop. I've been known to make 3-line list comprehensions. It's not usually a good idea.
You could do a generator comprehension and have that go right into the variables.
Right. Yeah, which if you're working with a big list, you probably want to make it a generator comprehension. Okay, so I'm going to go to inline if statements now. So almost every language I have ever used supports the ternary operator. So the ternary operator, I've never known how to support those. Ternary? Yeah. Okay. Ternary operator. Just realized I've never said that out loud. I usually call it the conditional operator. So how this looks in JavaScript, for example, this is an if statement in JavaScript. You're setting your age to 20, and we're checking to see whether the ticket type is child or adult. If the age is less than 18, we set it to child, otherwise we set it to adult. Here is an example using abusing short-circuit Boolean logic. You should not do this because you don't need to do it, and this is actually not accurate, or not accurate in all cases. This is the way you would do it in JavaScript. You'd use the conditional operator. So basically what this means, and you can't, so does anyone know what this means who hasn't seen it before? You want to take a guess? Okay. I wouldn't have known what it meant either. So basically this first part, if it's true, you return the first thing after this question mark. If it's false, you return the thing after the colon. This looks like Greek to me. I much prefer the way Python does it. So Python, we've got our same if statement, age equals 20. If age is less than 18, we'll set ticket type to child. Otherwise, we'll set it to adult. You could abuse short-circuit Boolean logic. Do not do this. This looks even worse in Python. We almost never do this in Python. So as we can see, that actually that doesn't give us the right result because we didn't set age. There we go. And the equivalent code using an inline if statement, which is a little bit different syntax, is ticket type equals child if age is less than 18, else adult. So as you notice, the first and second components of this are swapped compared to the more traditional conditional operator. I find this more readable personally. A lot of people, this drives them nuts when they first move to Python because it's not what they're used to. Yep.
I moved to Python, 8-9 years ago. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm in JavaScript and Python all the time. I switch between them, and
Me too.
I do have the problem that I forget which one I'm in sometimes, but the question mark and colon, they look so foreign to me in Python that I remember how to do an inline if because of that, because it's just, you don't see symbols very often. You see them for decorators and a couple other weird things. But there aren't too many weird symbols lying around in Python syntax. So this, to me, for a short statement, I usually prefer inline ifs. But because they look weird to a lot of people, many people would prefer this longer form. But it's nice to know that it's out there. If you see something like this, you know what's going on. So any questions about inline ifs? All right. Well, here are my references. This talk was pretty much just entirely cribbed from this article. That's not actually true. I read this article maybe a year ago. I intended to give this talk and then never really did, and started the material, and then I built it up over time, and I kind of forgot about the article and found it again, and then figured I'd give it a reference. Here's some chain comparisons documentation, tuples and inline ifs. These links actually have quite a bit of interesting information about them that I did not go over here just for the sake of time. So that's it. Thank you.
So at this point, we'll probably turn on the lights so that it's slightly less intimate in here.